Hey, welcome back to Grit Gym. Before we get going, Hoover Ball this weekend. Come out and show your support. It's in West Branch. What this says, because it's backwards, I know, because I need to be looking at myself while I do this, but it says, if you don't show up, you're a chump. Basically, it says, oh, hey, everyone. Not doing anything Saturday? Great. Come to West Branch and watch Mighty Mouse, who is Becca, Medicine Ball Queen, which is Madison, I bet. Oh, yeah, it's right there. And Tori. Tori did not give herself a nickname on here, apparently. But anyway, they're going to play Hoover Ball starting at 9 a.m. Just take the highway down. There is a festival also going on. Anyway, so if you're around, definitely stop in for the Hoover Ball. Hopefully that they get to pull off all the way to the championship, which apparently goes late at night, but it's going to be a really fun time. We're going to go down there and hang out with them as well. But what's today's topic about? Well, right now, what you guys don't know is that I'm in the process. We have like 3 different things going on. It would just not be me to do one thing at a time, finish that one thing off, and then go on to the next. I'd have to do all 3 at once, like a crazy person that I am. But anyway, so what I'm doing right now is I'm shooting a product out here, and it's the 100 ways to stay focused. I don't know about you, but one of the greatest things, challenges of my life has been focus. From a very early age, I was actually in first grade when the teacher started noticing that there was things different. Something was going on. I don't know why, but they would pull me out of recess and they'd make me go take all of these tests with all these different surveyors or whatever you want to call it. And I had to do all these tests. And eventually they called my parents in, and I didn't know what was going on, but I was like, all right, whatever. And because you're a kid, right? You're just a kid and you're just going along. Anyway, I had to go up to a specialist. The specialist does all these tests. He does a reading, not a reading test because I didn't know how to read yet. He did repeat these words back to me. He gave me 15 words. I had to repeat them back to him. A bunch of these other kind of memory tests, cognitive tests, focus tests, all these different things. And what they found was some very interesting things that I get to look back on. Like, for instance, I know that I have the short-term memory capability of a 7-year-old. The average 7-year-old and I have that in common. However, my long-term memory capability is off the charts. So at the same time that I am very poor in one category, I'm extremely versed in the other category. So like pros and cons, right? Which one are you going to choose? But this is about the time when doctors started to diagnose attention deficit dyslexia, and they started calling kids learning disabled. And throughout this whole presentation, I will contend very many times that this is not a disability, this is not a disorder, and this is not a disease, even though it's been treated like one this entire time that this thing has been around. And I'll try to stay away from any angsty stuff, but I get a little fired up about this because we put this expectation on these kids, and these kids are now adults. I'm 33 years old. I was one of the first wave of people to be exposed to this drug called Ritalin, then Concerta, then Adderall, then Dexedrine, Strattera, all of these different drugs. And I'm gonna try to stay away from the anti giving your kid a drug thing, but I want you to not take sides until the very end. Don't take sides until the very end and then analyze and marinate on these subjects. Do I give my kid the drug? Do I not give my kid the drug? Is it like glasses? Because this is what I heard. I'm bouncing around all over the place here, proving that this might be an actual thing. Who knows? But so the way that my older sister is a teacher, and the way that she gets it across to parents to try to get them to give their kids drugs is she will say, would you deny your kid glasses, the access to glasses to see the board? And that's how she makes it real to them. Now, is that a good sales tool? Yes, of course it is. Is it what that kid needed? I think it depends. I think it very much depends. I used to be so far on the anti side of that it would almost like I wanted to scream at her for saying something so ignorant. But I do think that it depends. And at the end of this, I think that you're going to see why. But anyway, so I'm in this. I go to a specialist. The specialist does all these tests. He's really, really a nice guy. I'm really glad to have known him. I bumped into him maybe a couple years ago, and it was just it's a great thing. A lot of good memories with the guy. But at the same time, I go through all these tests. They figure out I have like 25 of the 23 characteristics of someone with attention deficit and with dyslexia. So, and keep in mind that at 6 years old, you're supposed to be able to read a little bit. I could barely read it all. And I hated to read. I really just didn't like it. But why would you like something that you suck at, that everybody else laps you? Why would you like that? But anyway, so they called my parents into the room. My parents, the picture that they painted was like, basically, you don't have a chance. You won't be able to keep up with the other kids. You're always going to have trouble. You're never going to be able to amount to much. You're probably going to have a really tough job someday that's not going to pay you much money, and you're going to have help along the way. And my parents are like distraught, And think of hearing about that about your kid, like, hey, your kid doesn't have a chance, doesn't have no hope in the world. The picture that they painted was pathetic. And on the way home, my parents are both very talkative people. Like sharing the silence was not a thing in the house that I grew up in. You might share some silence between Rach and I, because outside of the gym, I just don't talk all that much, which might surprise some people. But they were very talkative people. And on that whole ride home, it was extremely quiet. I don't think a word was spoken. And that ride home is about 40 to 45 minutes. Park the car in the garage door goes down, they just sat there. And my mom's pretty intense. If you know Janet, she's pretty intense, right? And outside of, like, behind closed doors, she's way more intense than she is in here even. Anyway, so she got in my face, and she wasn't screaming at me, but she was intense, and she was intent also. Okay, and she got in my face, and she put that finger in, she has this finger, this thing that she can do. And if you know Janet, she's basically like the equivalent of if a wrecking ball and a chainsaw had a baby, that love child would be Janet. So Janet gets in my face, and she goes, "You are going to have to work 10 times as hard as everybody else." And I mean, it was intense like that, and it was like, geez. And I remember thinking in my head, like, you know what? I'm going to learn 10 times as much as everybody else too. So I'm going to work 10 times as hard as everybody else, and I'm going to learn 10 times as much as everybody else, and that's what I set out to do. So this whole focus thing, this attention deficit and this disorder thing and all this stuff was not painted in a very good picture, in a very good light. And I think a lot of kids, I'm extremely fortunate that she said that in that moment, because I think a lot of kids that have this thing that is painted in such a negative image that is not negative whatsoever. The talents and attributes that I have because of this actually are extreme superpowers that very few people get to slightly understand. Okay, it's a matter of either I'm going to pay attention to everything. I see everything going on all the time. Amanda and I went to go talk last night about some stuff, and she was talking about living with her significant other that has the same sort of thing. And what you don't understand is that we see everything. I see the squat racks behind me. I see the letters on the wall. I see everything all the time. I see cars driving by. It is an extreme discipline to focus in on here. Now, this is the other thing. I either go one way or the other. I do not go both. Most people, I think what I understand from talking with people who don't think like this is that they kind of can narrow things down to about 2 or 3 things, and they can kind of work in and out of that. Either I see everything or I only see you. Okay? Either I'm going to see one thing or I'm going to see everything. Okay? And I think that that's a superpower because the tunnel vision that is involved in the hyper focus that you actually get with what they call attention deficit disorder is not a disorder. It's not a disease. It's not a disability. That's a fucking superpower. That gives me this amazing thing to be able to do. However, many kids are living up to this idea that of the expectation that was set for them when they were 6 years old or 8 years old or 10 years old or whenever they were told about this and explained it to them. They were told, you're never going to amount to much, so they live up to that expectation, which is actually down here. You won't be able to read, so they never try. You won't be able to keep up with the other kids, so they don't on purpose. Do you see what I'm saying? They live up to the expectation that you set for them. Janet didn't let me do that. Janet didn't let me do that. She didn't say, "Oh, you're a victim. You're always going to be a victim. Too bad for you." She said, "We're gonna up the game on this. Like, if my kid's going to be stupid, my kid's going to work 10 times as hard so that he can be at even field. All right. So you give me enough time, I'll wear you down. Believe me, I never considered that I lost a wrestling match. I never considered that I lost a football game. What I did was run out of time. There's a big difference there. I ran out of time. I definitely lost some matches. I definitely lost some football games, but I just ran out of time. I did not lose. I would have worn you down. I would have beaten the hell out of you. And over time, I would have gotten it done. But that's a mindset of a janitor, right? So I'm going along, find out I have ADD, and this is the next step is most kids will get put on a drug. They'll get put on this drug so that they can have this more focused thing, whatever that means, right? So they get put on this drug so that they can be like the other kids. Without this drug, you won't be able to be good enough. That's basically what that drug says. I don't know if there's a problem with the drug, the chemical in the drug. I don't know. What I do know is that those kids are getting high just like everybody else. The difference between methamphetamine and the amphetamine known as Adderall is very, 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 they're similar. They're extremely similar. So saying that a person who has ADD or dyslexia, that their brain works opposite of everybody else and that somehow that those chemicals are working different, that is ignorant and naive at the same time. It's really a dumb thing to say. They don't. I got high every time that I took it, and you will too. If you are a person that experiences these things in your mind and you kind of classify into this kind of scenario, you will get high off of these things. So to me, eventually, I had to pick, am I going to be the kid on the playground that my friends like while I'm not taking the drug, or am I going to be the one that my parents like because I am taking the drug and the teachers like because I am taking the drug? Like, who do you please? Friends don't like me on the drug, but they do like me off the drug. Parents and teachers can barely stand me off the drug, but they like me on the drug. Which do you pick? So it creates this dichotomy is the wrong word, but this kind of division of who do I pick to be? And as a little kid, they start asking you, do you feel normal? Do you feel paranoid? Well, what is normal to a little kid? Normal to a little kid is change along the way. And it was all to drive this focus thing. So I think you can see some of these things that become kind of like these weird sort of deals along the way for someone who is labeled with disease or disorder or disability that they don't have. Okay? They have a talent. They have a superpower. This is a great, great thing. It needs to get flipped around into a different delivery to this kid, so that they don't. Because what the kid hears, I guarantee you, they hear, "You're stupid. You're never going to be smart. You don't have a chance." That's it. All right. However, I do have as much of as I consider this to be a superpower and all this stuff. How do you harness the focus? And this is the thing, I don't think that you try to rein this in. I don't think you try to squelch it down. I don't think you try to hold on to this focus thing. I think this is even what people without attention deficit or with dyslexia or any of these things, they try to do and they fail at because it's not how it works. I think the way that I look at focus is a discipline. Okay, I had to get outrageously disciplined. I had to pull all of these strategies together as I was going along. So first grade happened, I'm taking the pill. Man, that pill sucks. For the first 4 years, I'm just figuring out how to work with this goddamn pill. And I'm doing all these things after school where the pill is already worn off. With my mom, I'm learning spelling words. That was the first thing we went to because we could control it. You could memorize every one of those words forwards and backwards to the point that you get every one of those words down. Okay, that was the first thing. And then we went to math. And then we went to science, and then we went to other things. Okay, by the time by 3 years later, I'm getting all A's in every single thing. Before that, I was kind of just wanted to let me go to recess. I just wanted to do my thing out there. But anyway, this value of hard work came out of this, and this value of conquering your own mind came out of this, and this value of discipline came out of this. However, how do regular people do this? How many things can you harness? And what I found out, I started writing them down. I was like, what are all the strategies that I have? What are all these strategies? And anyway, I kept on writing them down. I'm like, kids need to know this stuff. I'm going to make this into a product at some point, and I'm going to give this thing away, and I'm going to give it to kids because they need to hear this thing. And then it clicked to me, I'm not a kid anymore, I'm an adult. Adults need to hear this stuff too. Okay, adults need to hear this stuff too. And I'm writing them down, and I start thinking from the adult perspective and the kid perspective, what do they need to do every day to get to where they want to go? Because really, whatever you focus on grows. If you focus on building your focus, that focus muscle is going to grow. Your brain is going to grow. If you focus on being miserable, you're more likely to get miserable. If you focus on being happy, you're more likely to be happy. If you focus on being successful, whatever success means to you, you're more likely to be successful. If you focus on building your wealth, you're more likely to grow your wealth. Someone the other day, just a quick tangent, this was yesterday, asked me, when did social media and business and all of these different things kind of come together for you? And I was like, well, it kind of came together to me at the same time because I had this realization that if I want to help a lot of people, I need to help a lot of people. And I was like, I don't know, it was kind of at the time, it was kind of weird because I'm in a weird industry because like no other industry I think can say this, where the more people that they help, the bigger their paycheck is. Does that make sense? Not only that, so that realization hit about the same time that Amber started working here, and it really didn't hit home. It was somewhere, it was like kind of in my mind, and I remember I saw, it wasn't just Rachel, like Rachel was a small part of it, but what I did, so Amber's got a daughter named Sydney, and I met Sydney for the first time. I don't think I've ever even told Amber this, but I met Sydney for the first time. Sydney was like 4 years old, maybe 3 years old. Anyway, this little girl, and Amber was, that's when it was. So Amber's husband switched jobs, and he was without a job for a little while. Like for 2 months, he was in this interim period where he didn't have a job. And so Amber was the sole provider for their house. And I realized how big of a deal it was for Grit Gym to be successful and to get more people in so that the money side of things worked. But I also had the realization that the more people that we help, the more money that we make. So it was like this, became this very like kind of spiritual duty almost to make sure that more people get in here, because there are just so few really great coaches in the world, and I'm not trying to pat my back there. I've earned that. And our systems out here work, and anyway, I don't want to go on and on about that, but that's when I realized it for me, was when I met Sydney, and I realized I'm responsible for more than just me now. And I saw Rachel, I'm responsible for more than just me now. And I saw all the people in here, and it was like, I need to help more people than just the people in here. I need to help more people. So that's when we started doing the social media, so that we could create a relationship, so that people could be allowed to create a relationship with us before we were allowed to create a relationship with them, so that they feel safe to walk in here, because that's what I want you to do. I want you to walk into Grit Gym. I want you to do that. I want you to feel safe to walk in here. But anyway, back to the focus thing. Everybody's got these focus things, so what do you do? Well, along the way of figuring these out, discipline was probably that first one. Discipline was definitely one of the first ones that came about as a way, that stupid fly is going all over my face, as a way for me to force myself into doing certain things. All right, one of the best ones along the way, well, I don't want to get into that just yet, that's jumping ship, but anyway, so I got extremely disciplined. About 20 years old, you guys see that guy? So tired of that guy. Anyway, all right, at about 20 years old, from 18 to 20, I was on this new drug that had, so drugs did not work well for me. My hands were just freezing all the time. I felt paranoid, felt like someone was going to stab me in the back all the time. I was miserable. I felt awful. I had no friends. I couldn't relate to anybody. It created this huge divide with me and with me knowing other people. It was just terrible. It was awful. I really hated it. And that's why I say like drugs worked though. That's why I say wait until the end to make up your mind between whether you think that drugs should be used or not, because the drugs worked. I would go in for that 15-question thing, and I'd get 3 chances to get all 15, and I'd never get all 15 without the drugs. On the drugs, I'd get it like the second time. It was amazing. The difference on and off the drug. That guy, oh my God, you little bastard. Anyway, so the drugs worked. And for certain little kids that have a lot of problems, like behavioral issues where they're like biting people and hurting people, or if you feel like pulling your car into oncoming traffic, man, you better keep on the drugs, because at some point it becomes a public health issue. But anyway, so what was the difference for me? Mind-numbing discipline and work ethic are never going to be replaced. You have to focus on those up front. That has to be your first thing. That is just the biggest thing that you can possibly do, is to grow that. You're never going to get away from that. Adherence is such a huge momentous thing. Okay, if you don't adhere to a nutritional strategy, it's never going to work for you. If you don't show up to your workouts and you don't adhere to the exercises that you're going to do, it doesn't matter how good that program is. It'll never work because you didn't work. So adherence is the first one. It's disciplining yourself, mind-numbing discipline, mind-numbing work ethic, just putting every single thing you have into those two buckets, because of the lessons that you'll learn. We can learn how to work smart later. Right now we need to figure out how to work our absolute asses off. Okay, so that's the first thing in the 100 ways to stay focused that I think that everybody needs to know. And as we go along, we get into better strategies. I get into supplements. Some of the supplements that I take to make sure that my mind is on point, how I sleep, how I get better sleep. some of the other focus factors. This was a game changer for me along the way also. I didn't tell the story. I'm going all over the place. Sorry, guys. So to go back a little bit, so 18 to 20, I take this drug that didn't have a stimulant in it, right? The stimulant, taking the stimulant out of it, that's great and everything, because that was probably what was causing a lot of the issues with the drug. So I go on this new drug called Strattera. The crazy thing is, the scary thing here is that within the first year of that drug being on the market, 60 kids killed themselves. 60, they rolled it out to I think it was just a high school age and older kids, so 14 and up, and over 60 kids committed suicide within the first year of that drug being on the market. They did not pull that drug off the market. I stayed on it for 2 years. I will tell you that it was, I don't really like saying this. I don't like saying this at all. I don't like admitting to it because I think that's weak. It's a weakness. It was a weakness of mine at the time. But I also, there's a certain amount of responsibility that I had in this too, because I don't think it was just the drug, but I will say that it was everything I had not to do that same thing. That drug was nasty, it was terrible, it just, I mean, I felt like I was already 6 feet underneath the ground the entire 2 years that I was on it anyway. It wouldn't have mattered. And in a very transitional time in my life, didn't help out much. But anyway, so do drugs work? Yes, that drug worked. That drug worked. I was better, my memory was better. My mental acuity was better. My focus was better. My cognition was better. Was it worth the price? Were any of the drugs worth the price? So I go off the drug at 20, and I'm like, at this point, you got to realize, you might look at me now and be like, oh, he can go through college. He started a business. He's run a business for the last 8 years. He has to be somewhat responsible, right? I, at the time, didn't know that if I could pass school. I really didn't know. I was like, I didn't know if I could get through school without the drugs. I'd not ever not done school without drugs. You see what I mean? Now, I'm gung-ho and crazy enough, and I thought that someone told me I couldn't do it, and that's what made me do it. Because people telling me you can't do that, is like is like a very dangerous word to use with me. You can't do that. Watch. It might not happen fast, but it's going to happen. Anyway, so I get through school. I got through school, no drugs the last 2 years. And the weird thing was, about 6 months after, maybe even less, but probably just a few weeks, all of a sudden I started to be able to, it was almost like people wanted me around. I was like, what? It's almost like people don't hate me all of a sudden. It's almost like people don't, and it was a really, really strange thing. It was like, I can relate to people. People can talk to me. I don't come off like an ass to every single person. This is weird. People almost act like they want me around. I might be able to have friends someday. This was a weird thing to someone that had never had a friend before. All right, so put that in perspective. No social skills. You look at me now, you're like, maybe you see some social skills. When people say, you're just what did that one lady say? She came out here and she complimented me on these videos. What was the word? You're just a natural born, something with a CH, like charm or something like that. And I was like, if you only knew, if you could only go back in time just a little bit, and you only knew how socially awkward and how terrible I was. Like, I didn't know to say nice to meet you when I met someone. I was just like, hi. So that's part of the reason I say that anybody can conquer this thing up to any point in their life, is that you don't have to sit there and be like, oh, I'm a victim of the scenario. But anyway, so to go along, I went through I've tried just about everything. I've tried supplements, I've tried meditation, I've tried visualization, I'm on a float tank kick right now. All of these things, the way that I sleep, almost everything that I do is pushed. My workouts, like I said, my sleep, my workouts, my meditation, my visualization, doing float tanks, the way that I eat, everything is pushed to help me grow and build into having better focus. Because the more that I focus, the better I focus, the more that I'm going to get the life that I actually want. This is the big question, I think, with all of focus. Are you focused on the life that you do want, or are you focused on the life that you do not want? And the life that you do not want is the default of not focusing on what you do want. I think that's the biggest thing that you can possibly take away out of this whole video. If you don't focus on the life you do want, by default you will end up with the life that might not be what you wanted. I can't guarantee that this will happen. I can't guarantee that you get the life that you want by focusing on it. But I can guarantee that you will not get it if you don't focus on it. That's the big thing, I think, to get away with it. This was a game changer for me, the One Life Planner. I used to do this on a legal pad for the longest time, and what I do is I have agreements every day. So there's a quote at the top. The quote is kind of arbitrary, but it's always kind of good. It's kind of little reminders of wisdom. And then I have certain agreements, and it says it on the shirt. Am I going to be all in today, or am I going to be afraid that I'm not enough today? And what you're going to realize eventually along the way after doing this for enough time is that all in means love. Am I going to love me today, regardless of like me, not like me and love me? First you got to get really clear on what the word love means. For me, it's that I'm present, and that's enough. I'm enough in this moment. So be a mad scientist. That's basically what I am, but with my own brain. I think it's one thing to do this with other people. I think it's another thing to do it with yourself. So, but am I going to be all in today, or am I going to be afraid that I'm not enough today? I will sit there until I am so present that it is insane, and I'll circle all in. And then I have agreements. Will I work hard to improve today? Yes or no. Answer the question. I have to set the intention up front so that I can focus on the life I do want. I want to improve today. Number two, what is it? Are you ready to, what is it? Will you focus on the present priority? I couldn't remember if it was are you ready to, or anyway, focus on the present priority, yes or no. And number three, be a positive influence. Will you be a positive influence today? Those are the three things that you have to ask. Focus on the life you want. Oh yeah. Thanks, Joanne. Anyway, so I asked myself those three questions. Well, it's actually more. It's 5 questions. But then I write down my goals, big goals, lifelong goals. I mean, goals that might take me till I'm 50, 60 years old to accomplish. I shouldn't have said lifelong goals, but big goals, ones that I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. But the thing is, I write down those goals because I know that I'm going to be wrong. I know that my trajectory is going to be wrong. My aim at those goals might be perfect, but my trajectory to get there is wrong. I know that. So every day I'm improving upon that trajectory. So I take an action. Maybe it was over here when I needed to go over there. So I readjust, and then I go for it again. I readjust, and I go for it again. I readjust, and I go for it again. If I don't do that, I am sure to miss at the end. So I set the big goals, and then I write down the target. What do I need to do today? What is the plan today to get to where I want to go? I don't want to rely on a goal as a dream. I want to make a plan to get there, because a lot of people will use goals. If you don't, they will use goals to sabotage themselves. That sounds a little crazy, right? But if you don't believe that you deserve the thing that you want to get, and you get it, you will sabotage yourself from having it. It's just like a lottery winner that becomes poor in 5 years of winning the lottery. How did you lose $30 million? It's because they believe themselves were poor, and they're so uncomfortable with that richness that they get rid of it so that they can go back to comfort because that's what they think they deserve. This is the same thing as, do you focus on the life that you do want, or do you end up with the default that you didn't want? Okay? That person played the lottery to get rich. They got it, but they didn't think they deserved it, so they ruined it. Okay, this is the same thing. That's how you can use your goals. You can use your goals for either way. So you make the targets, you make the plan so that you can get to where you wanted to go and deserve it once you get there. All right, then I write down a daily, some people call it a battle plan. I don't really like calling it that, but I write down a plan for my day. Okay, what do I need to do today? I fill in every single one of these. This is a blank one that I grabbed behind the desk. Mine's full. If you looked at it, it just looked like I went like that because my handwriting's so pretty. This is Tori's handwriting, not mine. But anyway, this was a game changer for me. Now, I hardly ever actually stick with this, and I really encourage, but having at least a plan A does provide you with a lot of benefit. If you don't do plan A, how are you going to do anything? Okay? If you don't do plan A, there is no plan B. If you don't do plan A, you plan to fail. If you don't plan, you're planning to fail. You're getting the default. It's the same thing as if you don't focus on what you do want, you'd end up with the default of what you didn't want. If you don't plan, you're planning to fail. It's the same thing. Focus is this huge thing that we like to dismiss, and we like to say this is something that I didn't go into earlier that I'm going to kind of wrap up with here in a second. But definitely, if you are serious about your goals, go and get one of these One Life planners. They're not expensive. We made them really cheap. We don't make any money off of these. We break even. But this is what I'll leave you with, because I got to wrap this up. I didn't get to everything that I wanted, and I'll make more videos on this in the future. But this is something that I really want to. I really want a lot of people to purchase this product when it comes out, because I think it's a game changer, and it's something that every single kid that is told you have attention deficit, you're disabled, you have a disorder, you basically have disease. It's such a terrible thing to tell little kids. Such a terrible, awful, ridiculous, stupid, pathetic thing to say to little kids. And I realize like some of you might be going, oh, tell us how you really feel. That is how I really feel. I just think like, it's the worst thing to tell little kids. Don't tell them that they have a disability. Tell them that they're going to have to work 10 times as hard as everybody else. That's what they need to hear, because they need that challenge. Kids don't like to be pandered. They like to be, they like structure and not structure that holds them down, but structure that they can launch themselves from. Okay? I don't understand this whole like reining kids in and trying to hold them down. No, let them launch. If you're the teacher, you should want the kids to be smarter than you someday. If you're the coach, you want your athlete to be better than you were. And so many of us are like scared that one day they'll be better than us. And it's a subconscious bullshit thing. But this is what I'll leave you with. We like to say that attention deficit kids are distracted. We like to say that we get distracted. We like to say that dyslexic kids get distracted. We like to blame the distraction for our own, or for our lack of success. Oh, I got distracted, so I missed the game-winning shot. Oh, I was distracted because of X, Y, Z. You were not distracted. You were focused on something that was not the present priority. That's the reality of the situation, is that you are never not focused. You are always focused. It is just what you are focused on. For instance, that fly that keeps bugging around me, that's super annoying, he keeps pecking at me, right? Well, I'm doing a pretty good job of actually staying focused in this video today, but once in a while, he pecks at me. When he pecks at me, I'm focused on him. When he goes away, I'm focused on you. Okay? If there's a clock going in the background while you're trying to write and all you can hear is the clock, you're not focused on your writing. You're focused on the clock, but you're calling the clock a distraction. No, it is not a distraction. You just happen to be focused on it instead of the priority at hand. Okay? It is no different than the shortstop that makes an error in the second inning. He makes an error in the second inning and he sits there and he dwells on it the entire game until the seventh inning when the game is on the line and there's a ball coming right at him, and what is he focused on? Is he focused on making the play, or is he focused on an error that he made in the second inning? Which one are you more likely to do in that scenario? Is he more likely to make that play when he's thinking about making an error, or is he more likely to make an error because he's still back in the second inning? It's a matter of focus. I truly 100% believe that everything in your life will come down to focus. What you focus on grows. What you want grows if you focus on it. You have to focus on that thing, and you are constantly focused. I think you will be focused. I don't know what happens after you die, but I think that you will be focused for every second, and you have been focused for every second of your entire life, and it's whether you harness in that focus and you make the structure around that focus ironclad so that you can launch yourself from that, so that you can use this thing for everything it can be in your life. And before I get sounding too cheesy, I'm going to cut this short, but I do believe that you are always focused. There's never a time that you're not focused. Anyway. That's Thursday. Thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. That was a weird one to do, but hope you enjoyed it. Really appreciate it. Please like, comment, share, and tell me what you think. I'll see you soon.